Hi friends, this is Deep Basu and welcome to my channel Think Deep. I'm back again and I'm going to review the film Haseena Dilruba. It's the latest release on Netflix and it released on a Friday. I know what you guys are going to tell me. I'm late once again. But guys, I couldn't help it because I was tied up with shoot and that's one reason my reviews have been inconsistent lately. So today I could spare around three and a half hours. So I thought of watching this film right away and share my thoughts the way I do always. So coming back to the film Haseena Dilruba, I watched the trailer last month and I found it pretty intriguing. This movie has been directed by the talented Vineet Matthew. He's a talented director. He directs a lot of TV series. You can watch his debut film Hasi To Phasi. Have you watched it? It had Siddharth Malhotra and Parineeti Chopra. You can watch it. I'm not sure which OTT platform has that film. Though the movie didn't do well at the box office, it was a very well-made movie. I liked the story, and the songs were very good. So do watch it. That's I think debut film of the director Vineet Matthew. Plus, this movie has been written by Kanika Dhillon. Kanika Dhillon's previous works are Manmarzia. She has written Mentally Kya. Though I'm not a big fan of Kanika's work, I find it pretty average. But so this is also her latest release, and you can see her name first. A very flattering credit. First name is the writer's name. That's a good development in Bollywood. Otherwise, the writers people don't really give credit to writers, and most of us don't know who the writers are. So I like the fact her name popped up first during the credit roll. So that's a good development. So coming back to the movie Haseena Dilruba, if you have seen the trailer, definitely you get to know it's a cocktail of romance and revenge, and which basically happens with these three unlikely characters. So coming to the story, the movie begins on a very interesting note. So the first sequence we see it's a morning, daylight. Taapsee is coming out of the house. She's doing some bazaar. She's feeding the dogs. Suddenly there's a bomb blast inside her house. She rushes in and she discovers that her husband Rishu has died. Apparently, because we don't get to see Rishu's face. Rishu is played by Vikrant Massey. We don't get to see Rishu's face. Only his chopped hands, which has Rani's tattoo, which is her name, Rani. So Taapsee plays the character Rani Kashyap. Rishu is played by Vikrant Massey, and I'm getting to the third character. So now the police begins their investigation because apparently it's a murder and there's something was happening inside the house, and they somewhat, very stereotypical. They are blaming the wife. So investigation begins, and all the clues, and Taapsee is the prime suspect, and they accuse her of killing her own husband. So now Taapsee begins to tell her story and basically talk about, and as an audience we go back to the past. So I would say it's the movie begins on the current scenario and then we go back to flashback. Usually what happens. So it's not, I would say it's a non-linear narrative. So now we go back to flashback and we are introduced to, I think, few months before. So Taapsee's character is very strong, very forthcoming, very straightforward, very bold. Rani Kashyap belongs to a very affluent family in Delhi, and she gets married to this very simple guy called Vikram Massey's character Rishu, who belongs to Jwalapur, which is I think in Haridwar. And there's a dialogue where Taapsee says, and Taapsee is too good for him, and that Rishu knows that, and Taapsee also tells him in one of the dialogues that if it was a love marriage, you would have to, chase me. It would have been difficult to pataw me. But since it's an arranged marriage, you're easily getting married to me. So Rishu very well knows that Taapsee is beyond his league. So Taapsee gets married to Rishu. First few sequences you'll get to know that there's an arranged marriage happening, and Taapsee gets married to Rishu. It's an arranged marriage. And Rishu belongs to Jwalapur. Taapsee, Rani Kashyap, belongs to an affluent family in Delhi. So both of them are quite different in terms of characters. Taapsee is very beautiful. Rishu is very simple. So Rani Kashyap, Taapsee basically always wanted a man who's 6 feet tall, who has a good sense of humor, who is very strong, looks strong. But Rishu is absolutely opposite Rani Kashyap's vision of her dream man. And Rani Kashyap loves reading Pulp Fiction, and on the other hand, Rishu doesn't know anything about Pulp Fiction. So both of them are quite different in terms of personalities and characters, but both of them, they want to give it a try and they get married. Now, after marriage, the problem begins. Though Rishu is not a toxic husband, his family is very toxic. So they, as normally what happens when a wife enters a home, they expect her to do all the chores, do housework. So Rishu's mother is not happy. She basically, apparently, Rani Kashyap's profile was very different, and it claimed that Rani Kashyap is good at housework. She can cook, she can do whatnot. But post marriage, Rishu's mother discovers that Rani Kashyap is not qualified to do anything. So basically, she curses Rani day and night of not knowing cooking, not knowing how to cook, not knowing this and that. So, though the environment is very toxic, Rishu surprisingly is a good husband, a very supportive husband. He supports Rani throughout, but he doesn't go against his mom, but he supports Rani throughout. So overall, it's quite a balanced scenario post marriage. So Rani Kashyap and Rishu are getting to know each other and they're trying to discover themselves. But the main problem comes when they are about to have sex. They are unable to do so because Rishu suddenly, is unable to have sex with Rani. What's the reason? I don't know. Maybe she's too beyond his league. He's too nervous to get undressed. So basically, the marriage is unconsummated. That's the main problem. That's the main turning point of the film. So Rani is an unsatisfied wife. She bitches about Rishu to her parents on a video call. Rishu comes to know. Rishu gets very angry. Both of them fall apart. He confronts Rani and accuses her of bitching about him. Naturally, any guy would have felt angry if his wife would have bitched about him to her folks. So, but Rani then tries her best to, console him, to prove her worth, apologize to him. But the first 30 minutes, 30, 35, 40 minutes of the story is how Rishu and Rani have fallen apart. Rani is trying her best to convince Rishu and, trying to make him happy. And Rishu is unforgiving and he's not ready to forgive Rani. And Rani, on the other hand, is unsatisfied wife. She's somewhat not enjoying this entire setup. No sex, no fun, no humor, no Pulp Fiction. Now enters the third character, Neil, played by Harshvardhan Rani. So now we had Rani Kashyap, her husband Rishu. Now the third character comes, played by Harshvardhan Rani, called Neil. Neil is Rishu's cousin brother, who is totally opposite Rishu. He's tall, he's hot, he's muscular, he's sexually adventurous, he has all sorts of vices. Now, predictable, Rani somewhat gets drawn towards Neil and they have an affair. And Rishu doesn't get to know about the affair at the beginning, but later, when after having sex, this Neil escapes. One fine day after, they get intimate couple of times, and suddenly this Neil character who was doing time pass with Rani, he disappears. This is the time when Rani confronts and she confesses to Rishu that she was having an affair with Neil. Why she does it, I don't know. Now, naturally, Rishu is upset. He gets very angry. Now, he starts taking, small revenge. Whatever he does, he tries his best to, hurt Rani. And why did Neil escape? We don't know yet. So this is the basically story of Haseena Dilruba, and all these sequences is happening in the past, and present Rani is the prime suspect. She's getting interrogated by the police, who suspects of murdering her own husband Rishu. Now towards the end, so in all these sequences basically builds up and towards the climax, and we audience get to know what really happened. So what really happens, you need to watch to find out. Why does Rishu die? Or if it is Rishu, so what really happens? Why there's a bomb blast and everything? And so that's the story of Haseena Dilruba. And so overall, if I have to talk about the story, somewhat I felt, why was this movie written? What was the writer? What was the writer's motive? And what did the writer actually wanted to say? I found the story very straightforward, too simple. I didn't find it very layered. I didn't want to root for any of the characters. None of the characters were very likable. And what was happening in the movie second half, somewhat I was not understanding. Everything was so predictable. This meal is so predictable. A third person comes and has an affair. So predictable. And I still want to know what was the actual story, what the writer would like was wanting to say. The director should have molded the characters in a better manner. None of the three characters get much scope. Taapsee and Vikrant Massey are good. But somewhat I felt the characters don't get much layers, much scope to perform or give their best. Even Harshan's character gets no scope. I hardly see him act. I just see him in that flirty, form. That's it. So far, somewhat the story didn't quite work for me. I found it very disappointing. I found it illogical. I found it unrealistic. I didn't find the ending convincing at all. And I think 2 hours 15 minutes was a very long run time for this film. And somewhat I felt it was a waste of time. Though I felt few sequences were interesting. The beginning was interesting. But overall the movie is pretty average, pretty forgettable. The songs are good by Amit Trivedi. The camera work is okay, average. Otherwise, this movie doesn't have to do much about the camera work or vision. Everything is inside the house. So overall, this movie was relying on a script which is quite half-baked and quite illogical and quite cluttered. So overall, my review for Haseena Dilruba is a very average attempt. Though Netflix India is known to always acquire bad films, be it Sardar Ka Grandson, be it Haseena Dilruba, be it ghost stories, be it Betal, I am not surprised. And I had a lot of hopes because Taapsee is doing pretty well in her career and her choice of scripts are pretty good. But somewhat, when I heard the name of Kanika Dillon, she's a writer, somewhat I was telling my brother that this don't have much expectations because I somewhat don't like Kanika's work. Her few portions of the script are good, characters are okay, but none of her work and story are very memorable. So this is my review for Haseena Dilruba. I hope I've covered everything. And so it's an average film. Do watch it if you want to watch. I'm sure most of you have already watched it. And if I have missed out on any points, do tell me so that I can, next time I'll keep that in my mind. So guys, this is my review for Haseena Dilruba. I know I'm late, but I'm wishing you guys happy Sunday. Monday is already buffering at my end. So guys, have a good week. Tomorrow starts from tomorrow and a happy Sunday. I sign off. I'll be back again. Goodbye.